Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Chapter 41, Golden Lion Flying Battleship. It is a special warship built with a small island more than 1,000 meters long as the main body. At the front of it, there is a huge golden lion head, roaring all over the world, swallowing up mountains and rivers. On both sides, there is a row of huge oars, powered by technology from South Blue, which paddles the air and provides steering and forward power for the Golden Lion flying battleship. In the middle of the ship, a huge mast towered there, with several huge golden sails hanging on the mast. In order to allow this flying warship to sail freely and avoid storm attacks in advance, Golden Lion Shiki specially captured a large number of meteorological experts and navigators from South Blue and other places to form a specialized navigation team. The base under this huge mast is actually a very luxurious palace, Golden Lion Palace. It is also where the Golden Lion and others live. In front of the Golden Lion Palace, Shiki's eyes were frightened and angry, but he stared at Loya calmly. "Who are you two, and how did you find me here? And what's the matter?" Although he is restrained, but Loya could tell at a glance that Shiki was getting ready to go. As long as the answer is not satisfactory, he will take action immediately. After all, he was the Golden Lion who dominated mountains and rivers back then. Even though Conqueror's haki has declined due to his head injury, his momentum has never dropped. Loya thought. Then he nodded towards Kanu. "Aha." Kanu laughed strangely, grabbed his left forearm with his right hand, and then broke it hard. Click. Kanu's left forearm was broken off by himself. A piece of bone was directly exposed to the air, looking very ferocious and bloody. However, in such severe pain, Kanu remained motionless and did not even let out a muffled groan. Then, Kanu tore off the broken forearm and threw it on the ground. Sebastian's drug transformation made his pain perception almost disappear, turning him into a fighting madman who only obeys the orders of Loya and Sebastian. Shiki narrowed his eyes slightly when he saw this. Then he crossed his arms, smiled slightly, and remained silent. He looked like he was waiting for the next step. "My name is Loya and I'm a doctor." Loya smiled and said, at the same time, he is also a healing fruit user. After saying that, he put his hand on Kanu's shoulder. "Heal," reply. Loya's hand emits healing green fluorescence, and after a few breaths, Kanu's broken arm grows back to its original form. "As you can see, my healing fruit ability has been developed to a very high level, and my short limbs can be reborn." Shiki's eyes flashed, but he suppressed it. Continue to wait for Loya's next words without saying a word. Everyone knows that there are 3 legendary pirates. The first one on the list is naturally the Pirate King Roger. And the second in line said it was Whitebeard Edward Newgate. No one remembers the other one, the Admiral of the Flying Pirates, known as the Golden Lion Shiki of the Flying Pirates. Loya said this. A dark anger flashed in Golden Lion's eyes. Shiki hid this dark anger well, but it couldn't escape Loya's eyes. Then, Loya added, "But in my opinion, the person who can be ranked second should not be Whitebeard. It should be Golden Lion Shiki instead. But when I saw him today, I was indeed a little disappointed." Loya sighed. At this moment, the anger in Golden Lion's eyes could no longer be hidden. "Mr. Loya, why did you come to see me? Stop hiding it. Just tell me. Only people who have low self-esteem and are sensitive will be angered by a few words." Loya laughed secretly in his heart. "So, why does Golden Lion feel inferior? Isn't he a great pirate who swallows mountains and rivers with anger?" The reason is simple. It's because Golden Lion's Conqueror's haki has declined severely. During the Adwal naval battle against Roger, he once put the Roger pirates into dire straits, but at the last moment, a sudden storm reversed the situation instantly. The Flying Pirates, or Golden Lion's lion fruit ability, are most afraid of storms. The advantage of making objects and oneself almost weightless and being able to fly freely becomes a huge disadvantage once it encounters a storm. That storm not only put his battle with Roger into crisis, but during the chaos, a flying rudder managed to pierce Shiki's head. Because the rudder was inserted too deep and removing it would be life-threatening, so Shiki had to keep the rudder on his head, which looked very funny. In the first few years, he only had occasional headaches, but with the powerful haki, he could still keep his brain clear. But after Roger was captured, he went to the naval headquarters and was defeated by Garp and Sengoku. His ankles were shackled with sea stones and escorted to Impel Down. After entering Impel Down, he felt that Conqueror's Haki had weakened very seriously. Even after cutting off his legs and escaping Impel Down 2 years later, Shiki didn't feel any signs of recovery from Conqueror's Haki. This made Shiki panic. Only Haki can rise above them all. No matter how powerful lion fruit is, even if the fruit's ability has been awakened, without Conqueror's Haki, he can only be regarded as a second-rate powerhouse. No matter how strong your swordsmanship is or how strong your body is, even if you can cut through mountains with one sword, but without Conqueror's Haki, you can still only be considered a second-rate strongman. Because the consequence of not having observation Haki is that the sword energy coming out of the slash is very inaccurate. Therefore, in the theatrical version of The Strongest World, the Golden Lion could not hit Luffy no matter how hard he slashed. The consequence of not having armament Haki is that the physical body's ability to resist hits is very poor. Therefore, in the theatrical version of The Strong World, the Golden Lion was kicked by Luffy's third speed giant battle axe and was completely KO'd. The consequences of not having Conqueror's Haki are less obvious. But the 3 legendary pirates, Roger and Whitebeard, can use Ba Tang, but you, Golden Lion, cannot use Ba Tang. If you tell me, you will be laughed to death. Of course, the Golden Lion who lost Conqueror's Haki was panicked inside. He was afraid of meeting his old acquaintances, Whitebeard, Kaido, Silver Axe, Akoku, Charlotte Linlin. If they find themselves without Conqueror's Haki, being killed is a trivial matter. The point is it's so embarrassing. For big pirates like Golden Lion who once devoured the world, death was not something they were afraid of. But that old face is a bit embarrassing. So Golden Lion could only hide and think of other ways to plot the world. After holding back for 22 years, he and his old subordinate Indigo, who is a scientist and ship's doctor, conducted research on IQ. The first step in researching IQ is to conduct animal experiments. The ultimate goal is to restore the strength of Golden Lion through IQ. Now, the IQ experiments on animals have begun to bear fruit, and Golden Lion is in a better mood, preparing to conduct large-scale human experiments through the East Blue Extermination Project. That's right, destroying East Blue is just a cover. What Golden Lion really wants to do is conduct large-scale human experiments on IQ drugs. Because many animals died in the IQ experiment, only a few animals survived, and the offspring of these surviving animals were used to continue the experiment. It was developed from generation to generation, and the whole process lasted for 20 years before it became effective. If we conduct human experiments in small batches, we don't know how much time it will take. Golden Lion is now over 70 years old and cannot afford to wait for the second 20 years. East Blue's extermination plan sounds very bluffing, but it doesn't cost him the title of Golden Lion. But in fact, East Blue is very weak. Even as a second-rate master, Golden Lion can successfully carry out the plan as long as it avoids Garp and other marine masters and escapes with flying battleships. In this way, through the East Blue destruction plan, both face and dignity are gained. After holding back for more than 20 years, Golden Lion has long since become inferior and sensitive. The days of hiding and losing his glory are the biggest blow to a former king. Chapter 42. Okay, then, Shiki Senpai, I'll speak frankly. As you can see, my healing fruit ability can regenerate severed limbs within a few breaths. It's easy to heal your legs, remove the rudder from your head, and restore your physical condition to 10 years old. But there is no free lunch in the world. I need Shiki Senpai to do something for me. At this point, Loya paused and pretended to sigh. Oh, it's a pity that when I saw him today, I found that Senior Shiki is no longer as energetic as he used to be. I'm afraid that Shiki Senpai can't do what I need Shiki Senpai to do. I think I'd better go back. This deal is over and I'll just pretend I've never been here. After saying that, he turned around and wanted to leave. Wait, Shiki's eyes were full of anger and he shouted softly. Do you think you can come here whenever you want and leave whenever you want? After a pause, Shiki suppressed some of his anger. How do you want to trade? Just tell me. There is no need to use provoking methods on me. After saying that, Shiki snorted coldly to express his dissatisfaction. Loya laughed secretly in his heart after hearing this. It's easy to see through the enemy's tricks, but as a person who cares about face so much, Golden Lion will still fall into the trap even if he sees through it. Loya turned to look at the Golden Lion and said, "Several of my relatives and friends when I was young were captured by the celestial dragons and made Mariajoy slaves. 20 years have passed, and I don't know what they are like now, so I want to rescue all the slaves in Mariajoy. This is the reward I need to pay for curing Shiki-senpai." When Golden Lion heard this, he was almost dumbfounded. Wait a minute, if you want to save a few of your childhood relatives and friends, why do you need to rescue all the slaves? This is nonsense. Shiki yelled angrily, a little anxiously. The IQ human experiment has not yet been launched, and even if it is launched, results will not be guaranteed in a short time. There are still unknown risks in the process. So when Shiki saw Loya's powerful healing ability, he was immediately moved. If Loya heals himself, maybe he can return to his peak. How could Golden Lion give up the temptation of Loya so close at hand? Originally, Shiki planned to coax Loya into curing himself first, and Loya wanted to do whatever he wanted. Anyway, he would not fulfill it when the time came, or he would find reasons to keep delaying it. Anyway, Shiki has done a lot of this kind of thing. In the World of Kings, Nami reminded Shiki that there was a storm ahead, so Shiki coaxed the Straw Hat crew into sending them to East Blue, but on the way, he plotted against the Straw Hat crew and kidnapped Nami. Shiki is a real pirate. He has the arrogance of Haki, but also the cunning and scheming deceit. He could fight his way to naval headquarters alone just for a moment of excitement. They will do whatever it takes to achieve their goals. Loya saw through his cunning and arrogant character, so he was a thief and provoked him as soon as he got up, forcing him to adopt his arrogant style. If Shiki wants to coax Loya to heal himself first, he will not do it afterwards, or delay it. When the time comes, Shiki can fully imagine that Loya will laugh at him for not daring to be an enemy of the world government, and that he is inferior to Roger and Whitebeard. It doesn't matter to Shiki whether he hates him or is hostile to him. Anyway, he is a cunning pirate and there are countless people who hate him. But it is absolutely unbearable to laugh at him, compare him with Roger and Whitebeard, say that Shiki is not as good as those two, and how arrogant Shiki is. Therefore, Shiki plans to seriously deal with Loya. However, he never expected that the reward Loya asked him to pay was to rescue all the slaves of Mariajoy. This matter is too risky. Naturally, Golden Lion did not want to agree to such trading conditions. But Loya figured out the weaknesses in his character. He simply smiled and said, "Then Shiki-senpai will be Mariajoy's slave. They are all my childhood friends." Shiki almost burst out of anger when he heard this. "Oh, you have so many relatives and friends. Let's go, Kanu, I know Shiki-senpai can't do it." Loya greeted Kanu, then turned around again, about to leave. "When did I say I couldn't do it anymore?" Shiki was so angry that his chest heaved. He suppressed his anger and shouted loudly towards Loya and the other two. "Oh, I'm sorry, that's what I mean, Senior. It's my fault." Loya turned around and quickly pretended to apologize and said, "Then, Senior, you have agreed to my conditions. This matter." Golden Lion gritted his teeth, "We need to consider it in the long term." After a pause, Golden Lion pulled out an ugly smile and said coaxingly, "Haha, little friend Loya, to be honest, you are so young, I'm afraid you don't know how difficult it is to rescue so many slaves from Mariajoy. Let me tell you this, even if Roger is reborn and joins forces with Whitebeard, it will be very difficult to do. So it's really not that I don't want to agree to it. The real meaning of Shiki's words is to express that I am not weaker than Roger, let alone Whitebeard. Roger and Whitebeard may not be able to do something together, but if you ask me to do it, aren't you making things difficult for me?" And how could Loya not know the difficulty of this matter? But he deliberately said, "But more than 10 years ago, a fishman named Fisher Tiger rescued many slaves from Mariajoy." When Shiki heard this, the corners of his mouth twitched. He suppressed his anger and smiled. He only rescued a few people. You kid just pretends to be confused, right? What you asked for was to rescue all the slaves in Mariajoy, but that fish man just set fires everywhere and didn't care about the life or death of the human slaves. The only ones he wants to save are his compatriots from the Fishmen clan. After he set fires everywhere, Everyone was busy putting out the fires, but his fellow fishmen only had to jump into the river to escape the fires. Murlocs can also breathe in water, but how long can ordinary land humans hold their breath? Do you know how many human slaves were burned to death in the fire that the fishman set? As for the few land human slaves who took advantage of the chaos and escaped, they all did so through their own efforts and luck. The fish man named Fisher Tiger didn't help at all. Oh, that's it, Loya pretended to suddenly realize. In his heart, Fisher Tiger hated the humans on land. Therefore, Shiki's words are the truth of that incident. Shiki continued to persuade. Just think about the resistance we need to face if we want to rescue all the slaves from Mariajoy. Is the Marine Admiral coming? You are still young. I wonder if you have heard of the Celestial Dragon's strongest shield and strongest spear. Especially the strongest spear, the Knights of God. Their leader is a powerful figure no less powerful than the Marine Admiral. Even, when necessary, the 5 elders will take action. You kid is too young to know that 5 elders are not just 5 old men. Shiki said. The crushing experience helped him regain some face. However, Loya smiled. Shiki-senpai, you still underestimate me, Junior. Junior me, if I want to rescue my childhood relatives and friends from Mariajoy, how can I not investigate thoroughly? The Knights of God, the ancient Saint Fegaland Green, the 6 Masters of Aegis, and the 5 Elders are even given the title of God of War at the end of their names. If we can firmly control the power of Marine, how can the celestial dragons not be powerful? The information Loya told. Shiki was shocked. He never expected that a young kid would investigate the man behind the darkness in this world so clearly. He, Golden Lion, also followed Captain Rox to attack the Valley of the Gods, and was able to get a glimpse of the dark information hidden behind the scenes. What is the origin of this little brat? Single quote. Shiki couldn't help but secretly thought in surprise. Chapter 43. Senior, since I, Junior, have come to find you, I must have made a plan before I proposed this action as reward. Loya continued. Senior, please listen to me, Junior. Loya then revealed the identity of Ace, the second captain of Whitebeard, as well as his arrest and public execution. He also took advantage of the Summit War to capture Impel Down and recruit other heroes. Golden Lion was shocked when he heard this, and his eyes were filled with brilliance. Finally, Loya told Shiki the information about the Straw Hat Pirates. What, the Straw Hat Pirates actually have such an outstanding navigator? Shiki was surprised. If we get the navigator named Nami, wouldn't he be able to avoid the storm? No longer have to worry about a sudden storm coming at a certain moment. Don't panic, does Shiki-senpai know the identity of that Straw Hat Luffy? Loya faintly told the origin of Straw Hat Luffy. What? He is actually the son of the revolutionary Long and the grandson of the marine hero Garp. Shiki was shocked. Haha, although we have Whitebeard's fire to save Ace, we might as well add another one. As long as we capture Straw Hat Luffy, give it to Marine Admiral Akainu, and inform Akainu of Straw Hat Luffy's identity. Haha, Senior, think about what fun things will happen. Shiki was not only shocked after hearing this. In his mind, thoughts were racing. Admiral Akainu Sakazuki is a marine hawk with a tough style, and he will definitely advocate that Ace and Luffy be executed together. Marine hero Garp will definitely get angry and lose control of his emotions. It might lead to civil strife in Marine. And Long, the leader of the Revolutionary Army, may also lead people to save his son. This may trigger an unprecedented melee. By then, maybe the other 4 emperors will take advantage of the chaos to get involved and fish in troubled waters. How things will develop will become confusing. It's simply impossible to predict. Gia ha 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 ha, it's chaos, it's chaos. This world will definitely be in chaos. Gia ha 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 ha. Golden Lion became more and more excited as he thought about it, and finally burst into laughter. Shiki-senpai, think about it, if people know in the future that you, Shiki-senpai, are behind this series of big events, how much they will admire you, Senior. At that time, Roger's reputation will be compared with that of you, Senior, right? As for the 4 emperors like Whitebeard, they will no longer be able to compare with your actions, Shiki-senpai. Loya's very timely gong huo dao. Gia ha 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 ha. After hearing Loya's compliment, Shiki was so excited that she burst into laughter again. However, Shiki soon calmed down a bit. He glanced at Loya with a deep look. You brat, it's obviously you who's pulling the strings behind the scenes, right? What a terrible little devil. Single quote. Shiki thought with a cold sweat in his heart. No, I'm just an ordinary doctor. At most, I can be regarded as your strategist, Shiki-senpai. After we capture Impel Down, we must use your banner to successfully recruit those unruly and powerful people. And when the senior takes advantage of the chaos and leads a group of strong men to rescue the junior's childhood relatives and friends from Mariajoy, the junior will take those useless slaves and leave your new flying pirates. Loya said slowly. After hearing this, Shiki rolled his eyes and asked uncertainly, seriously? You won't stay in my new flying pirates from now on? Loya smiled and said, my purpose is just to rescue my childhood relatives and friends. Those strong people who have fallen down will of course be brought under your command, Shiki-senpai. Shiki rolled his eyes again and paced back and forth. He couldn't be sure if Loya's words were true or false. However, if everything goes well, Golden Lion Shiki will not only be able to regain his strength with Loya's healing, but he will also be able to become the second, Rocks, by recruiting the strong men from Impel Down. Dominate the sea and surpass the glory of the past is just around the corner. The only thing Shiki is worried about is the kid Loya. His scheming is too scary. That new flying pirates who stays with him may pose a threat to him. But if this kid really just wants to save his childhood relatives and friends, he will take the initiative to leave his team when the time comes. Then everything is perfect. He, little friend Loya, I agree to your conditions. Shiki is a decisive hero, and he makes decisions quickly in the face of huge interests. He looked at Loya with a smile, his eyes full of admiration and reliance on the surface but hidden in his eyes. So, little friend Loya, when do you plan to treat me? Of course it's now. Right away. Loya smiled. Shiki's eyes narrowed. Are you sure? Instead of waiting until things are over before you treat me. Aren't you worried that I will break my promise? Loya still smiled and said, Junior, I believe that with your reputation, Senior, you won't regret even this little promise. Moreover, if I can't completely cure my senior and restore my full strength, how can I have the dignity to ask my senior to risk his life and do so many things? Gia ha. Little friend Loya, I'm starting to like you a little now. Shiki laughed. I couldn't be happier. Mind control. This is not a devil fruit skill, it is just using other people's character weaknesses and ambitions to achieve the purpose of controlling a person's actions. Loya met with the Golden Lion today and put his mind control skills to full use. Golden Lion's character weaknesses and ambitions are all controlled by Loya. Although the Golden Lion knew that Loya had used aggressive tactics and deliberately complimented and guided him. However, character weakness and ambition drive Golden Lion to jump into Loya's trap willingly. But Loya hid his true purpose deeply. Rescue Mariajoy's childhood friends. Does Loya have that kind of relatives and friends? This is just a cover. Even if Golden Lion Shiki fails to fulfill this promise, Loya will not suffer any losses. His real purpose is to use the Golden Lion to destroy the Straw Hat Pirates and mess up the world. Some people may think that the current Straw Hat Pirates are easy to handle, right? Why should Golden Lion take action? Think about it carefully. In Logue Town, Straw Hat Luffy is going to be executed by Buggy. Who is it, falling from the sky? It's his father, revolutionary leader Long. A bolt of lightning fell and hit Buggy. Think about it again. How did Bartholomew Kuma's teleportation ability save Straw Hat Luffy and his gang in Sabayati? By Straw Hat himself. Then he would have died. His father, Long, can turn into the invisible wind. You never know when he will be hiding next to Luffy and the others. And Loya wants to put the Golden Lion on the bright side and use it as cannon fodder. Attract the dragon, Garp's wrath. Even red-haired Shank's rage. But the real mastermind behind the scenes, Loya, was able to hide safely behind the scenes and quietly reap the benefits. Chapter 44. Shiki's own ship's doctor and scientist, Indigo, untied the two supreme sharp knives Sakura Ju and Mokuru tied to Shiki's legs. Loya put his hand on Shiki's wrist. Cure. Reply. Single quote. Deterioration. Single quote. He shouted cure on his lips, but he shouted repair and deterioration in his heart. In the light green healing fluorescence, the two legs of the golden lion quickly grew back in a few breaths and were as good as ever. And in a place that golden lion cannot sense, the deterioration castration technique makes golden lion lose his sexual desire and fertility forever. After capturing Nami and Robin of the Straw Hats, of course Loya accepted it. How could it be golden lion's turn? Shiki saw that his feet had grown back. For a moment, he was completely immersed in ecstasy and recalling the glorious past. Indigo holds Shiki up and lets him try to get off the ground and walk. The solid feeling of stepping on the ground made heroes like Golden Lion almost lose control and burst into tears. Senior, don't be too busy to be happy. Loya looked at Shiki with a smile, really like a respectful junior. Now let's start healing the head. Indigo, come and do the surgery and pull out the rudder. I will use the healing technique to fully recover Shiki-senpai the moment you pull off the rudder. Indigo said worriedly. Dr. Loya, are you sure nothing will happen? Loya explained. Even if you are brain dead, there is a process. You will not die in an instant, but I only need 2 or 3 breaths to heal the brain. So Dr. Indigo, don't worry, I will be cured before my brain dies. There will be no risk at all. But Shiki showed the courage that a hero should have at this moment. He laughed and said, how dare you be so timid even with such a small risk? Even if you are alive, what can you do? Indigo, no need to say more, just follow the instructions of little friend Loya. Yes, Captain. Indigo had no choice but to take out the scalpel and start performing craniotomy on Shiki. How painful is craniotomy? But Shiki insisted on not taking anesthesia and other drugs. He just smiled and smoked cigarettes and chatted quietly with Loya throughout the whole process. There is no sign of pain. He is indeed the greatest swordsman in the world. Single quote. No one who can stand on top of the world is weak-willed. They are all warriors with wills stronger than steel. Single quote. Loya thought secretly. More than half an hour later. Captain Shiki, Dr. Loya, I'm getting ready to pull out this rudder. Are you ready? Indigo asked in a cautious tone. Shiki looked at Loya after hearing this. Loya nodded and said, well, follow my orders. When I count to 3, you will pull out the rudder immediately. And Loya had already put his hand on Shiki's wrist. 1, 2, 3. Bow. With a soft sound, the rudder on Shiki's head was gently pulled out by Indigo, and there was still a little bloodline and brain on the wood. Heal. Reply. Loya also activated his recovery ability at the same time. When Shiki's rudder was pulled out, his mind went blank for a moment, his eyes glazed over, and his consciousness began to blur. But Loya's healing power is so powerful, after just 2 or 3 breaths. Shiki suddenly woke up. An unprecedented feeling of relaxation comes from the brain. Oh, I feel it. Shiki opened his eyes wide and glanced at Loya. Loya deliberately pretended to be pale and nodded towards him with a smile. Shiki calmed down and patted the back of Loya's hand gently. Thank you for your hard work, brother. It seems that curing me will take a lot of effort from me. Indigo, please quickly prepare a good room so that little friend Loya can rest. Then, brother, I'll take a break first. Loya stood up and smiled at Shiki, then took Kanu and followed Indigo to the castle. Wait until Loya is gone. Shiki stood up slowly and touched his smooth bald head. A wanton and evil smile appeared from the corner of his mouth. Hockey. My conqueror's hockey. I can feel that they are recovering quickly. Gia ha 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 ha. I am hiding and studying IQ drugs in order to heal the brain, because conqueror's hockey requires strong mental power as the foundation. I never thought that in the end, there would be such an awakened person with the ability to heal fruits. Help me get back to the top. What's even more unexpected is that he also planned a shocking operation for me. Gia ha 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 ha. I've really made a lot of money. God is really helping me. Gia ha 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 ha. With a slight hook of Golden Lion's finger, the awakened lion fruit ability can remotely control items stained by the fruit ability. As a result, Sakura-ten and Mukuru's 2 supreme sharp knives flew up in the air and automatically landed on Golden Lion's hands. The Golden Lion stands on the earth with both feet, raises his arms, and points the swords in his hands to the sky. Roger, just stay in hell and watch me do something even more earth-shattering than you. Gia ha 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 ha, comma. In a luxurious suite, Loya sat cross-legged on the bed, eyes slightly closed. Golden Lion's life replayed in his mind. That immersive experience is like Loya becoming a golden lion. His swordsmanship, his ambition, his haki, the pain and growth he experienced, all turned into nutrients for Loya's growth. The swordsmanship of the greatest swordsman in the world is really amazing. Single quote. I, Loya, accept it without any hesitation. Single quote. And, single quote. Sure enough, Golden Lion, as a being as famous as Roger and Whitebeard, is also proficient in Conqueror's Entanglement. Single quote. Experiencing the process of learning and using bullying from Golden Lion has also made my bullying skills more mature. Single quote. Haha, Roger, Whitebeard, and Golden Lion, these three people are really different in their own way. Single quote. Roger is a leader of D's bloodline, with power exceeding the limit of 10,000, and his use of Ba Tang is the most outstanding. Single quote. I even created my own long-distance move like Divine Avoidance, using Double Dominator as a sword energy to swing out. Single quote. Seeing and hearing colors should also be able to predict the future and listen to the voices of all things. Single quote. And Whitebeard has the physical strength of a giant, and his physical power is higher than Roger. Plus the shock fruit ability. Single quote. Finally, Golden Lion, his bloodline is ordinary, and his physical power is just at the limit of 10,000. Single quote. However, Golden Lion's swordsmanship has reached a state of perfection. Coupled with the awakening power of the lion fruit, it is also a disaster level like the shock fruit. Single quote. In the memory of Golden Lion, Loya feels the scenes of him fighting Roger, Whitebeard and other heroes. Analyzing, learning, comprehending. Chapter 45. 3 days in a row. Loya is immersed in Golden Lion's life replay, comprehending, digging and settling. Compared to Whitebeard's life replay, in the life of Golden Lion, the sense of immersion is even stronger. Because, Whitebeard's haki is based on his righteous character. Loya couldn't relate. More importantly, I only learned the techniques used by haki from Whitebeard's life, but I was unable to integrate Whitebeard's haki growth into myself. But Golden Lion's haki is different from Whitebeard because of his ambition. He is a kind of haki who roars all over the world and swallows up mountains and rivers. This type of haki is highly similar to Loya's haki. Therefore, Loya can be highly integrated with the spirit of the Golden Lion. From the life experience of Golden Lion, get the nutrients to make your own haki stronger. It's not about getting stronger in skills, but the quality of haki has become stronger. After 3 days and 3 nights of non-stop immersive experience, Loya slowly opened her eyes. The quality of haki has nearly doubled. Single quote. Although we can continue to improve, it is becoming more and more difficult and takes longer and longer. But now I have business to do. Single quote. Let's stop here for now. Besides, it can also be integrated in actual combat to further enhance haki. Whitebeard's life taught me the skills of Conqueror's haki. And the life of Golden Lion has doubled the quality of my Conqueror's haki. Single quote. Now my haki is probably stronger than the Golden Lion at his peak. Single quote. It's really benefited a lot. Single quote. Loya concluded in his mind and raised his eyes to look at Kanu, who was motionless at the door. Thank you for your hard work, let's go have a big meal. Loya stood up and said something caring. Aha. Kanu let out a weird laugh. At present, this guy is more like a beast than a human being. After the two left the room, Golden Lion immediately prepared a sumptuous banquet. During the banquet, Shiki observed Loya. Now that he has gradually recovered, he is secretly surprised by the power of haki contained in Loya's body. The vigilance towards Loya has become even stronger. After this is done, if he refuses to leave my new flying pirates on his own initiative, I will have to find a way to kick him out. Single quote. We must also be wary of him recruiting strong men under his command during the execution of his plan. If necessary, I will not hesitate to kill this person. Single quote. Shiki thought viciously. After all, a pirate group cannot tolerate 2 scheming overlords. Unfortunately, Shiki's vigilance failed. Loya doesn't care about the strong ones who impel down. Just a plate of loose sand. Just like the Rocks pirate back then, the epic battle in the Valley of the Gods. Roger and Garp teamed up to fight Rocks. Shiki, Whitebeard, Charlotte Linlin, Silver Axe, Akoku, John and others are all playing with their little 99, sitting on the mountain and watching the tiger fight. No one will go up and support Rocks. What Loya wants is a force that is completely loyal to him, not a group of loose, strong men. Therefore, we must cultivate strong people who are loyal to ourselves. And Loya has a complete and mature plan in his heart, which I won't show here for now. As for these bulk, strong men who will be recruited from Impel down, they can only serve as cannon fodder for the early stage of the hegemony. What's the harm in being temporarily lent to Golden Lion? Loya swallowed a mouthful of meat and said, I have received news that the Straw Hat Boys and other new generation pirates will gather at the Sabayati Archipelago these days. Because only Sabayati Archipelago can coat ships, then dive to a depth of 10,000 meters, and tunnel through the seabed to enter the New World. Shiki Senpai, let's set off now and wait at Sabayati Archipelago. When Shiki heard this, he immediately laughed, Gia ha 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 ha. I've been waiting for your words. Golden Lion immediately ordered the navigation team to fly the Golden Lion flying battleship towards the location of Sabayati Archipelago. News from Loya, from Sebastian. After Sebastian escorted Khalifa and 4 shiploads of goods and arms to the Daughter Kingdom. According to Loya's instructions in advance, he took more than 100 subordinates and drove a battleship to the Sabayati Archipelago. Currently, the new generations, King of Rags, Kiden, Big Stomach Girl, Bonnie have arrived at the Sabayati Archipelago. Calculating the time, Straw Hat crew will arrive here in a few days at most. These pirates of the new generation, although their current strength is not comparable to the great pirates of the old era. But they are young and have great potential. If you recruit someone under your command, it will be very worthy of training. Shiki Senpai, you can't miss these young boys. As long as they are carefully cultivated for a few years, maybe they will shine. So in this operation, it is best to catch them all in one go. Loya said these words. Shiki couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Because Loya's words are so sincere. It made Shiki feel a little unreal. Even this kind of thing reminds me, does this brat Loya really have no ambition? Just to be able to rescue Mariajoy's relatives and friends. Single quote. Shiki couldn't help but doubt his intuition. To be honest, Shiki Senpai, I want you to give up Nami and Robin, the 2 Straw Hat girls, and Bonnie, the Big Stomach Girl, to me. I will also help Shiki Senpai capture other new generations. But those 3 beauties still hope that Shiki Senpai can be as beautiful as an adult. Loya said with a smile. When Shiki heard this, he couldn't help but be startled again. Immediately, he burst out laughing. Gia ha 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 ha. I wonder what purpose little friend Loya has. It turns out that I have fallen in love with those 3 beauties. Gia ha 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 ha. If you are not romantic, you will waste your youth. I remember that I was also a handsome young man back then. But, now that I am old, I have no interest in those beauties. What's the harm in giving up to little friend Loya? Gia ha 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 ha. Shiki felt really relieved now. Because I can't find any weakness in Loya. But I never expected that Loya would turn out to be a lecher. He is addicted to women and wants 3 beauties at once. Is it difficult to handle such a young man? In the future, as long as I give him more beauties and let him indulge in female lust, do I still have to worry about him swallowing his power? Shiki was overjoyed. In a good mood, I even ate dozens of extra kilograms of wine and meat. Loya took out the detailed map of the Sabayati Archipelago and the information about the new generation that had been prepared for a long time, and discussed with Shiki the plan of action in Sabayati. A few hours later, the Golden Lion flying battleship flew over the Sabayati Marine Branch base. Well, little friend Loya, then as planned, I will go down first and say hello to the Marines. Gia ha 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 ha. The Golden Lion held 2 swords, flew up from the ship, laughed, and landed towards the Marine Branch base below. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Chapter 46. Wind Hunting. Marine Branch Military Port. The Marines all stared at the sky with dumbfounded eyes. There, more than a dozen warships, large and small, were floating in the air. Such a sight is simply appalling. An old man with fluttering blonde hair floated in front of those warships under the dazzling sunshine. Cross your arms and look sternly. Hey, little devils, where are you in charge? Tell him to come and see me. Golden Lion just finished speaking. The commander stationed here, Naval Headquarters Rear Admiral Kadakongbo, came over with a look of shock and anger on his face. Who are you? I am the commander of this place. Is it demon fruit power? Single quote. Kadakongbo looked at the astonishing sight in the sky with a shocked expression. Gia ha 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 ha. Kid, listen up. My name is Golden Lion Shiki. Golden Lion looked down at Kadakongbo and others, raised his hand, click, and snapped his fingers. Whoosh. A dozen large and small warships accelerated and dived towards the marine base from a height of several hundred meters. Ah. Kadakubo and other marines had expressions of shock and horror on their faces. With so many warships falling from the sky together, this scene is no less than a natural disaster. Especially several of the large Buster Call class warships, if they were smashed down, the entire base would be destroyed instantly. As the rear admiral of the powerful faction, Kadakongbo is confident that he will survive such a natural disaster. But what about the thousands of marines at the base? How many of them can survive? Seeing these warships, carrying the roaring wind, they have landed 50 meters above their heads. Kadakongbo no longer had time to think about it, so he could only bite the bullet and plan to use a pair of armed iron fists to plunge into the sky to challenge him. However, just when Kadakongbo was about to take action, these warships in the sky suddenly stopped there. No more falling. What? Stopped? The Marines looked at this scene with cold sweat on their heads. Some of the timid soldiers had already fallen to the ground, their legs trembling and their faces pale. Gia ha 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 ha. This is a piece of advice for you. I, Golden Lion, want to hunt a new generation of pirates in Sabayati. If any of you are blind and dare to interfere with my good deeds or rob me of my prey, then, these warships will really fall. All consequences are your own responsibility. Don't say you didn't predict what you said. Gia ha 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 ha. Gia ha 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 ha. The Golden Lion's wild laughter resounded through the sky, and gradually became smaller as he flew away. And those warships, as if being grabbed by invisible hands, moved sideways from the tops of the marine soldiers to the port, and finally landed gently on the sea. Gudong. The Marines swallowed. They all felt that cold sweat had wet their backs. At that moment, there seemed to be huge pressure in the air. They didn't even dare to breathe. So scary. Where did this Golden Lion Shiki come from? I've never heard of such a strong person. He is demon fruit power, right? The soldiers started talking a lot. Kadakongbo, on the other hand, recalled what Golden Lion said when he left, and walked towards the office of the base with a gloomy expression. The situation has gone beyond what he can handle, and he wants to call the headquarters to report the situation. Naval Headquarters, Marshal's Office. Golden Lion Shiki. After hearing the report, Marshal Sengoku was immediately furious. After thinking for a moment, Sengoku said, "Send someone to keep an eye on it, keep it loose on the outside and tight on the inside. As for Golden Lion Shiki, as long as he doesn't attack Marine, let him be." Sengoku's considerations are simple. Now he is planning summit war to remove the thorn in Whitebeard's side before retiring. It would be unwise to provoke a strong man as famous as Whitebeard at this time. Obviously, Golden Lion Shiki hunts the new generation of pirates in order to recruit potential subordinates and seek a comeback. Need to be more careful about this. But it's not a priority. Moreover, by subduing the new generations with violent means, can they really be successfully recruited into their ranks? This is not necessarily true. Besides, Marine's strategy has always been to fight thieves with thieves. Allowing Golden Lion to deal with those new generations is in line with the strategy of fighting thieves with thieves. Since 2 celestial dragons were intercepted and killed a month and a half ago, during this period, no celestial dragons dared to visit Sabayati. Therefore, even if the Golden Lion is allowed to run amok in Sabayati, Marine has nothing to worry about. No. 24 GR, a certain restaurant. Door. Master, Bonnie is inside. Sebastian said. A smile appeared on Loya's face. I have traveled to the world of pirates to live a life. If I don't accept the beauty in front of me, wouldn't it be like a salted fish? The so-called emperor means that his desire is stronger than anyone else. The will is stronger than anyone else. More courageous than anyone else. More powerful than anyone else. Make the so-called ministers yearn for it. You can just stay outside. Da. After giving her instructions, Loya walked into the restaurant alone and walked straight towards Bonnie's table. At the same time, Conqueror's haki began to be slowly released and wrapped around him within a few meters. Suddenly, everyone who was passed by Loya, whether they were customers or restaurant waiters, fainted and fell to the ground. Plop, plop, plop. The sudden movement of someone fainting and falling to the ground immediately made everyone in this spacious restaurant look sideways and feel strange. Bonnie, who was sitting at the dining table in an unladylike manner, concentrating on eating, could not help but pause. She subconsciously looked in one direction. Then she saw a handsome young man with black hair, looking at her with a smile and walking straight towards her. And those who fainted were all passed by the handsome young man. Bonnie immediately realized something was wrong. Who? She looked at Loya warily and asked. The pirates around him also became alert at the same time. Loya looked at her with a silent smile. Suddenly, his eyes widened. A scarlet light flashed in his eyes. Conqueror's shock hits Bonnie's side. Bonnie's pink hair is floating slightly. Then, the pirates around her all fell to the ground with a thud. Bonnie's beautiful eyes widened and she looked at this scene in great surprise. Aha! Loya was at Bonnie's table in an instant. A hand pressed on Bonnie's forehead. What? Bonnie was shocked. Deterioration and memory erasure. Single quote. Loya thought silently in his heart. The next moment, Bonnie fainted, being held in Loya's arms. Without memory, there is just a blank piece of paper, which can be painted with color by Loya. Just like Shalulia and Khalifa before. Become Loya's most loyal plaything. Chapter 47. No. 21 gr. Sabayati Land, a certain bar. Door. Shiki-sama, there are 2 or 3 new generation pirates who are worth over 100 million. They are Magnetic Fruit Ability user Kid, and his deputy Kira. There is also a Sound Fruit Ability user named Apu. Although he is a new generation on the surface, he has secretly joined 4 Emperors Kaido. One of Loya's subordinates. Tell Shiki the details of the information. Haha, little friend, Loya's intelligence ability really surprises me. Shiki smiled inexplicably. He looked at the middle-aged man who provided information. He put his hand on this person's shoulder. Hey, I think you are very good. Do you want to join me? Whatever Loya can give you, I will double it. Yes. Golden Lion Shiki is very short of manpower right now. He saw that Loya's subordinate was pretty good Marine School level officer and very smart, so he started to poach him. Haha, Shiki-sama is joking. Now my master is also under your command. Of course, I am also under Shiki-sama. These subordinates that Loya personally selected and recruited were originally people of good character and strength, and they were once slaves who were auctioned. Loya spent a lot of money to save them, wash away their slave status, and provide them with generous benefits, treatment. Therefore, their loyalty is extremely high and cannot be poached away by Shiki with a few words of promise. When Shiki heard this, he couldn't say anything else. Then he walked into the bar with his head held high. Compared with the photos on the wanted poster in his memory, Shiki glanced around and found the target immediately. And the 3 of them were sitting together drinking. Gia ha 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 ha. Shiki stepped forward. In Loya's evaluation, Kid was given high praise. And Shiki used sight and color to perceive, and also discovered that Kid contained Conqueror's haki. For such a person, Loya's suggestion for recruiting is to be gentle in praising, and be polite first and then attack with force. Shiki is also a person who listens to advice. As he walked towards Kid, he said with a smile. It is said that among the new generation of pirates, Eustace Kid is the undisputed number 1. When I saw you today, it turned out to be true. Gia ha 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 ha. Kid and the 3 heard the sound and looked at the blonde and bald old man. I couldn't help being surprised. Although these 3 people have not yet practiced their sense of perception, the potential exists, so their perception is extremely keen. He immediately noticed that the old man's aura was extraordinary. He was definitely a powerful person who should not be underestimated. But how crazy is Kid's character? Even though he saw that the old man was no ordinary person, he did not show any pretense. Who are you? Don't think you can get any benefit from me just by praising me. This Kid's personality is very annoying. No comparison means no harm. As soon as Kid opened his mouth, Shiki started to hate Kid and secretly compared him with Loya. A person with a domineering personality, completely ignorant of the skills of speaking and behaving, and a bad mouth can immediately disgust people. A person who appears gentle but is actually very scheming and whose words and deeds are impeccable makes it difficult for people to feel dissatisfied. Although he is disgusted with Kid, Shiki can remain calm. Gia ha ha ha, Kid, I don't even bother to take advantage of your benefits. But this friend next to you, Shiki said, then turned his attention to Dai Yin. Apu aside, do you know the purpose of this person approaching you? When Kid heard this, his eyes immediately widened and he glanced at Apu suspiciously. Old guy, what do you mean? When Apu saw this, he immediately stood up dissatisfied. Gia ha ha ha, what do you mean, old man? Shiki smiled, you have secretly surrendered to 4 Emperors Kaido. Your purpose of getting close to Kid and others is to wait until the time is right and betray Kid and others to Kaido. Is what I said correct or not? Ha ha. What? Kid immediately glared at Apu. Are you from 4 Emperors Kaido? Kid, don't listen to this old guy's nonsense. Apu hurriedly excused himself. Snort. Shiki could no longer tolerate it at this moment, but Apu's words of old guy had already made him furious. His sword struck out as fast as a meteor. A huge and bright sword light struck directly at Apu's chest. Poof. Blood is flying. Apu's entire body flew backwards. Even if 4 Emperors Kaido sees me, he must be courteous. You, a little thief with a bounty of over 100 million, dare to be disrespectful to me. Killing Apu instantly with one blow, Shiki held the sword in one hand and snorted with a stern look in his eyes. Quote exclamation mark quote. Kid and Kira looked at Shiki in shock. Especially Kira, who is also a swordsman, can see the power of Shiki's sword. Kid was even more shocked by the identity revealed in Shiki's words. Damn. Apu, who fell to the ground, got up from the ground, his eyes full of hatred. Scrape the plate and chop. Boom. A sound. Apu hit his chest hard with his fist. HMPH. How dare you shine in front of me with just a grain of light? Shiki blocked both ears with armament hockey. Leap forward. Several rays of sword light bloomed on Apu. I saw Apu scream, ah, and blood sprayed from his chest and limbs. One arm was cut off directly to the ground. I will spare your life because Kaido and I are old acquaintances. Snort. Shiki held the sword with one hand and glanced disdainfully at Apu, who was seriously injured and fainting. What a speed. Single quote. What a powerful swordsmanship. Single quote. Kid and Kira were shocked again. Gia ha ha ha. Kid, if you make an alliance with this kind of person, you will be the one who gets screwed in the end. After Shiki finished cooking Apu, he turned to Kid and said, I think you are a talented person, how about you join forces with me and do something big? Shiki looked at Kid and Kira with a smile and issued a formal invitation. 1 minute later, the entire bar was in ruins. Shiki held 2 swords and flew in the air, his face full of anger. Red-haired brat, you're toasting me and you're going to have to drink wine as a penalty. I have one last question for you. Do you want to join me, or do you want to imitate Apu and be killed by my sword? On top of the ruins below, Kid and Kira stared at Shiki in the sky with extremely ugly expressions. Just at the bar, Shiki chopped off Kid's gathered magnetic arm with one sword strike. The vertical and horizontal sword energy and the broken metal that flew out destroyed the bar into ruins in an instant. I said, Lousy has lost interest in forming an alliance with others. You should find someone else. Kid is still the unruly Kid. Seeing Apu being exposed, Kid realized that it was unreliable to form an alliance with others, so he directly rejected Shiki's invitation. Moreover, Kid could tell that Shiki said he was an ally, but it was more likely that he was using him, or recruiting him under his command in disguise. Kid is naturally not interested in this. Seeing that Kid was so ignorant of current affairs, Shiki naturally didn't tolerate him either. Okay, today I will sink the ship of your new generation. Shiki was furious, and with a wave of his arms, the endless sword energy suppressed him like an overwhelming force. Chapter 48. A few hours ago. Loya, that straw hat of Straw Hat Boy, does it look familiar to you, Shiki-senpai? Yes, it's the one Roger wore. Shiki-senpai, do you know what this means? Yes, Straw Hat is the inheritor of Roger's wool, and Roger's son Ace is also his sworn brother. I say this because I want to tell my seniors that on this island, if you want to touch the straw hat, you need to be careful of one person. Shiki. Hey, what the hell kind of connection does this straw hat guy have? How many big shots have you mentioned? This makes me not want to arrest this person anymore. Of course, I was joking. What I hate most in my life is this kind of relationship. Well, that's right, I hate it the most. What, are you sure you're going to stop Rayleigh? I have to remind you that although Rayleigh is old, he may not lose to Marine Admiral. No, 13GR, a rip-off bar. Darkroom. Dee. The fax phone bug printed out a photo. Shaki smoked a cigarette and casually took out the photo and glanced at it casually. Shaki couldn't help but stare at the blonde, bald old man in the photo. On this freshly baked photo, this bald, blonde old man has Eustace Kid, the big pirate of 300 million belly, covered in blood, under his feet. And not far away, Killer Warrior, Kira also fell in the ruins in a pool of blood, not knowing whether he was alive or dead. This old guy, what does he want to do? A slightly uneasy cold sweat broke out on Shaki's forehead. Da. The sound of footsteps came from the main hall of the bar overhead. Shaki closed his eyes and looked at the color. Put down the photo and go up the stairs. Squeak. Shaki opened the door and walked into the main hall, glancing at the visitor. The other party was already sitting at the bar, thinking to himself. It seemed like he was no stranger to this place. But Shaki is sure that this is the first time he officially sees each other. That's right. In the past few years, I have seen this person in newspapers. Recently, seniors from the Daughter Kingdom have also sent letters and photos. The Protector and Martial King of the Daughter's Kingdom. Such a title comes quite strangely. At least in her and Rayleigh's opinion, the Whitebeard group's actions towards the Daughter Kingdom were full of doubts. But, she is just an information dealer now, and she has stopped interfering with the affairs of the Daughter Kingdom. At most, it's just cheaper to sell some information to the seniors of the Daughter Kingdom and the cute juniors. Thank you, Ms. Shaki, for taking care of Shiji, Loya said while sipping the wine. After the three Boya sisters took advantage of the fire and escaped from Mariajoy, it was with the help of Shaki and Rayleigh that they successfully escaped capture and returned to their daughter's country. Shaki pretended to be surprised. Oh, you are. The Daughter country is also your hometown. If you can no longer do the intelligence work, you are always welcome to go back and retire. Loya's tone contained a feeling that he was the master of the Daughter's country. Shaki was a little unhappy. After all, it was once her territory. Moreover, the cute juniors also grew up under her care. No more greetings. Loya put down the bar, got down from his seat, and looked at Shaki with a smile. I came to you today for only one purpose. Give me all the permanent pointers of the Daughter Kingdom that you have in your hand, or sell them to me. When Shaki heard this, he covered his mouth and said in surprise, are you here to rob my old aunt? Haha, I will pay double the black market price. This shouldn't be considered robbery, right? Loya smiled casually. Shaki stared at Loya seriously for a long time. So, in the past few years, I have been buying the permanent pointers of the Daughter's Kingdom from the black market, and purchased almost all the permanent pointers of the Daughter's Kingdom. And more than 3 months ago, a large number of permanent pointer thefts at naval headquarters. Is this all your work? Shaki smoked a cigarette and said slowly. I'm protecting my daughter's country, that kind of thing shouldn't be left outside. Loya smiled. Yeah, haven't you just been the Protector Martial King of the Daughter Kingdom for a few days, kid? Did you know a few years ago that you would become the Protector Martial King? Shaki said with a fake smile. Ha, Ms. Shaki, knowing too many things may not be a good thing. Da. Loya raised his steps and approached Shaki. Counting the time, my man will probably be back after drinking. Oh, man, I obviously have good wine at home, but I always like to drink wild wine from outside. Shaki was calm on the surface, but his body was secretly tense. Saying Rayleigh also reminds Loya that if you touch me, Rayleigh will not let you go. Ha, Senior Rayleigh, I happen to have something to do with him. As soon as Loya finished speaking, he burst out in anger. Shaki's eyes narrowed, and he hurriedly pulled away and retreated. Next moment, boom, the wall of the rip-off bar suddenly fell into pieces. As a roof was smashed, Shaki's figure flew out from behind. A pale look appeared on her face, and a trace of blood spilled from the corner of her mouth. Laugh. In midair, Shaki used his strength, turned over and landed on the ground, sliding back several meters with his feet on the ground. Yeah, handsome guy, don't be so rude to ladies. Shaki wiped the bloodline from the corner of his mouth and said in a cold voice. If you were 20 years younger, maybe I would be gentler to you. Loya walked leisurely and slowly approached Shaki. Gone. Isn't there any handsome young man who likes mature women? Sister, my oral skills are pretty good. Wouldn't an 18-year-old girl get sick of eating too much? Shaki said without any formality. My predecessors have not deceived me. If a woman acts like a hooligan, she really has nothing to do with men. However, I still respect Senior Rayleigh, so I won't enjoy your blow job. After Loya's words fell, his figure exploded out. Carrying Shuang Ba Tang and 10,000 power in his fist, he went straight towards it. Shaki holds emission hockey in front of him with both palms. Tizzy. After the flash of black thunder, Shaki's figure shot straight towards the back like a cannonball. As expected of the previous empress, and someone who had been on the Rock's ship. The proficiency of double-color hockey is far beyond what Snake Princess can match. But it's a pity that with Shiji's qualifications, she is destined to surpass you. You are not the overlord. After Loya's blow, he was still leisurely and unhurried. He is twice as powerful as Conqueror's hockey when he fought against the 5 white group captains on the Daughter's Island. Even if Rayleigh comes, he will definitely not be his opponent. If you really want to be serious, you can beat Shaki with Black Snake Drive, add Thunder and 8 trigrams and you can kill him instantly. Cough cough cough. Shaki climbed up from the rubble behind him, coughed a few mouthfuls of blood, and then smiled charmingly at Loya. Little handsome boy, your fists are so powerful. Old aunt, I still like you so fiercely. How about we have sex first while Rayleigh hasn't come back yet? Chapter 49. Look carefully, Ms. Shaki, you are a mature woman, and you still have charm. Senior Rayleigh is really enviable. Loya knew she mentioned Rayleigh frequently. I just want to scare myself. After all, in addition to Rayleigh's personal powerful force, he also has a group of old friends. That is, the strong men on Roger's ship. Among them, Rayleigh is called the right arm of the Pirate King. The left arm of the Pirate King, Jabba, the third most powerful figure very close to Rayleigh, is now living in seclusion somewhere. In addition to Jabba, there are many cadres, all of whom are powerful, at least not weaker than the ordinary captains of the White Regiment. Even if you really want to invite someone over, even the red-haired Shanks, one of the current 4 emperors, can definitely do it. Should I say it or not, if this group of people really gathered together, Luya would have to flee. But now that Loya has taken action today, he will never stop. He won't give Rayleigh a way out or a chance to ask for help. Young handsome boy, you are talking about envy. Shaki wiped the bloodline from the corner of his mouth and smiled. Actually, you don't like me, old aunt. Otherwise, we can find a nice place now. Auntie, I want you to relax and help you vent your anger. Even though I'm older, I'm still so attractive. One can imagine what kind of witch she was when she was young. Loya pressed forward step by step and said with a smile, Ms. Shaki misunderstood me, boy, I didn't want Aunt Shaki's life. As long as you obediently hand over the permanent pointers of the daughter country to me. Then just treat everything as if nothing happened, just don't interfere in the affairs of the daughter country at will in the future. Upon hearing this, Shaki stepped back and continued to say with a charming smile. Then you were so merciless to Auntie. Auntie really misunderstood. Well, I can give you the things, but Auntie, I don't want double the market price. Speaking of this, Shaki smiled charmingly and said, Auntie is getting older, and she has a wish. She just wants to talk to each other all night long with such a handsome brother like you. Seeing that she was still pretending, Loya couldn't help but admire her acting skills. Ginger is still spicy. How many young men can withstand the temptation of a charming aunt like this? Loya stopped. Open your arms, smile at her and say. Well, this way I can not only get what I want, but also talk to a charming beauty like you, Ms. Shaki, so I feel a little bit cheap. Come here, come into my arms. Shaki just looked at Loya with a smile. Then, He took a few steps back and sat on the lawn, holding his chin with one hand and smiling with a charming look. Tell me, Loya, what will you do after you get the daughter country? I heard from Gloriosa that you sent more than 700 billion bellies worth of goods and more than 100 billion berries worth of arms to the island. A female taijutsu instructor was also sent to 9 snakes to train the female warriors. And that innocent little girl Shiji has obviously made a secret love for you, but you are not in a hurry to eat her. Now your prestige on 9 Snakes Island has vaguely surpassed that of Shiji. That silly girl shouldn't have noticed it at all. If you continue like this, she, the Empress, may one day be ousted by you. The real power of the daughter kingdom will fall into your hands. I have to say that you are very capable and very scheming. Next, Auntie, you and I will be honest with each other and say good morning to each other. Why don't you tell your aunt frankly now? Auntie is really curious. What do you want to use the daughter country for? After hearing this, Loya couldn't help but smile. Boy, my scheming is still not as good as yours, Ms. Shaki. Why don't you and I really be honest with each other? I'll be honest with you again. You are so reserved. Do you want to wait for Rayleigh to come back and see how we candidly express our opinions? I'm afraid it's not a good idea to treat seniors like this, right? Loya said and walked towards Shaki again. Harmful, boring man. Shaki waved his hand, stood up and stepped back. She backed away and said with a sweet smile, I'm older, I can't compare to those little girls. I'm afraid I won't be able to withstand the strength of a young man like you. Can't I chat with you first and then get into the mood little by little? This old aunt is really interesting. Loya smiled and said, Stop saying you were an aunt, Ms. Shaki. In my eyes, you are just a little girl. I believe that with your charm, madam, if we make progress faster, you will be able to live and eat. Bah, you're so bad. You can coax people. Auntie is not a little girl. Shaki let out a squeak, then pulled away and retreated. Loya shook his head helplessly. How could Loya not know about her intention to delay? But to be honest, Loya is also playful, and half true and half false with Shaki, which is quite interesting. That's right, Yuan Xian is not interested in everyone. Her character is unrestrained and her intention to delay time is also true. But this is because her opponent is Loya, so she is happy to act so charming. It's been a long time since I've seen Loya like this. He is a terrifying young man full of ambition, full of hockey, resourceful, handsome, and powerful. Well, it seems like it's not that I haven't seen you in a long time, but that I've never seen you before. There is almost no woman who doesn't like such a man. In addition, Rayleigh is always fooling around outside and has no home, so she will also be a little lonely. So about half of it, she comes from the heart. ... Please give me flowers. However, it was just a mouthful, and she would not really betray Rayleigh on her own initiative. But if forced, after all, her strength is far inferior to Loya, so she has to. Half rejected and half welcomed. Probably, maybe. But she wasn't sure whether Loya would really be interested in an aunt like her. Hee. Looking at Loya chasing after him, Shaki chuckled and continued teasing. If you can catch up with me, then Auntie, I will. Just how? Loya suddenly accelerated. 100 meters away, Loya arrived in front of Shaki in an instant, as fast as thunder. Snap. Loya's hands were like iron clamps, tightly clasping Shaki's wrists. You kid didn't use full speed on purpose before, right? Playing a cat and mouse game with me. Tricking me. Shaki said in shock and anger. Look at how enthusiastic you were in flirting, Auntie. I'll play with you, kid. Loya hummed and laughed. I look down on you, kid. Oh, you pinched me so much. Can't you be gentler when you treat your lover who is about to express your feelings to you? Shaki was surprised, because Loya's speed just now was even faster than Rayleigh's full speed. This kid doesn't really have the strength to be a general, does he? According to Mai and Rayleigh's inference, shouldn't he have invited those people in the white group to act? When it comes to acting, it should be fake fighting. Shaki was caught by Loya at this time. His face was only surprised, but not panicked. She even continued to tease Loya, because she could feel that Loya did not have any murderous intention towards her. Plop. The two fell onto the lawn. Shaki was pinned down. Both wrists were held by Loya with one hand and pinned to the ground. Hey, wait a minute. Are you serious about coming? Shaki felt something was wrong with his posture and couldn't help but froze. Immediately, he smiled charmingly and happily. "Oh, I didn't expect you, Brother Loya. You really like my beauty, old aunt." Such an ambiguous gesture makes Shaki a little shy. But her mind was very calm. However, she also saw that Loya absolutely suppressed her regardless of his wisdom or strength. Since it is doomed, no matter how she resists, it will be in vain. It is better to let Loya. Earlier she thought she was teasing Loya. But in the end, why not, she was being teased by Loya. "Really, I was forced. I told you to fool around outside all the time. Is your home going to be robbed now? Ha, you deserve it." Shaki half closed his eyes, pretending to be struggling and reluctant. But there was some subtle expectation in my heart. Chapter 50. About 2 hours later, Rayleigh woke up and rushed home. "It's been 3 days since I heard back. Shaki should be angry. This time I still have some drink money left, so I can buy some small gifts and take them back to cheer her up." Half an hour later, Rayleigh rushed to GR number 13, and from a distance, she felt an extremely powerful heart beating. So Haki's heartbeat, not only Haki, but also very domineering. The strong person's knowledge and color can perceive elements that ordinary people cannot perceive. Rayleigh secretly thought, what will happen to Shaki? Then his eyes narrowed and his feet quickly accelerated. This is. Arriving 500 meters away from the rip-off bar, Rayleigh looked sharply and saw that the place was in ruins. On the ruins of the original bar, the bar counter is still intact. A young man was sitting on a high stool at the bar, holding a familiar figure in his arms and slowly drinking a cocktail. "Ah, Shaki." The 417 woman in his arms is Shaki. Rayleigh was stunned. This is wrong. Shaki is definitely not of his own free will. Rayleigh was shocked and angry, but still sane. But his feet unconsciously accelerated again, and his whole body shot past like an arrow from a string. Loya drank the cocktail in one gulp. Then he wrapped the sleeping Shaki in his arms and gently picked him up and placed him on the bar. What did you kid do to Shaki?" Seeing this scene from a distance, Rayleigh was furious. He immediately drew the sword from his waist. "Haha, what did you do?" Loya patted his smooth upper body and raised his chin slightly. Some hickeys on the neck were revealed inadvertently. "Ah, Rayleigh, your woman is so smooth. It is said that women are like wolves at 30 and tigers at 40. At her age, she is so passionate that I almost can't bear it." While speaking, Loya clasped one hand on the hilt of the sword at his waist. That evil smile, it makes Rayleigh look almost ferocious. 30 meters away, Rayleigh stopped and looked at Shaki again. Seeing that she was sleeping soundly and was not in any danger of life, he breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that she was indeed naked, but her vital parts were covered by the man's shirt and coat. Moreover, Shaki's hair was messy and there were a lot of sweat marks on his face. Loya couldn't help but be a little surprised to see that he could still keep his composure after seeing this situation. Then he spoke again, adding fuel to the fire. "Hey, let me think about it. How Aunt Shaki and I fell in love. Oh, she is really devoted. Even I, who have been through many battles, almost can't bear it. It's so unforgettable. By the way, she's also good at role-playing. She said she has never tried it with you." Rayleigh's face was already ashen as she listened to Loya's calculations. A pair of eyes were filled with cold and dark black lines. "Loya, I know who you are." Rayleigh gritted her teeth and spit out these words. Loya was really shocked now. He was so provocative, but Rayleigh could still remain calm. Want to know what she said before she fell asleep from exhaustion? Loya stepped up the provocation. She said, "Xiaolongjun, I wish I hadn't met you earlier. 1 day of happiness with me is better than 10 years with you." Rayleigh's mind went blank and her whole body was shaking with anger, but she didn't quite believe Loya's words. Judging from your expression, you don't seem to believe what I say." Loya smiled, then raised his left hand. He reached for the coat that was wrapped around Shaki. "Would you like to come over and take a look? She is in a mess now." As he said that, he held the corner of his clothes and wanted to lift them up on the spot to show Rayleigh. The reason why Rayleigh is so calm is because he is thinking about what Loya is provoking him for. Logically speaking, the two have not had any intersection in the past, so it seems that there should not be any grudges. The secret message sent by Gloriosa should be kept very confidential, and Loya should not know about it. Moreover, even if Rayleigh and Shaki guessed Loya's layout on Nine Snake Island, they never thought of intervening or exposing it. After all, they have retired and no longer care about Jonghu matters. Especially Shaki, who just wants to support himself by selling information. And he, Rayleigh, didn't plan to take any action until Raftel's prophecy arrived. But at this moment, Loya's action really humiliated Shaki. Rayleigh can no longer think so much. Stop. Rayleigh jumped up and pointed his sword directly at Loya's throat. Kanglang. Loya smiled and unsheathed his sword with his right hand. Ding. The tips of the two swords collided without any gap. Why didn't he use Ba Tang? Even emission is useless. A question flashed through Loya's mind. Oh, in order to prevent Haki from leaking out, the clothes covering Shaki's body were blown away, right? Ah, he is such a gentle man. No wonder Shaki fell in love with you, even if you are always away from home. Loya said with a smile. Kid, are you provoking me like this and trying to kill me? Rayleigh stared at Loya sharply. I can accompany you. But this is not the place. I'm worried about hurting Shaki. Hearing this, Loya immediately turned his wrist and sheathed his sword. It's refreshing to talk to smart people. Don't even think about escaping. I won't threaten you with Shaki's life, but if you run away, don't blame me for being bad to Shaki. By the way, I poisoned Shaki. Even if you escape with her, you will die from the poison if you can't find the antidote within 24 hours. Say it. Loya then raised his feet and walked away in one direction. Rayleigh reluctantly glanced at Shaki, who was sleeping soundly, and wanted to ask if what Loya just said to provoke him was true, or was she just saying it to provoke him. But in the end, Rayleigh still didn't have the courage to ask. What if what Loya said about him and Shaki was true? Since you haven't seen this kind of thing with your own eyes, just pretend you don't know anything. Rayleigh sighed inwardly, took steps with difficulty, and followed Loya. Before leaving, he raised his head and glanced at number 13 Yarchman Mangrove. Loya, is that beast hiding in the tree one of yours? Rayleigh asked, falling far behind Loya. Ah, yes, even he can find it. Rayleigh, you are going strong. Kanu was arranged by Loya. Now, Kanu is becoming more and more like a beast, even his breath is like a beast. After this battle, Loya plans to experiment with IQ drugs on Kanu. It is estimated that he can withstand the power of the medicine and further strengthen his strength by 1.5, and become more like a beast that can only obey orders and fight. Ms. Shaki is innocent. The only person I want to target is you, Rayleigh. I'm worried that if we leave and leave Shaki alone, traffickers will target her. I arranged for my subordinates to be there to guard him secretly. Loya explained. Haha, I really want to thank you. Rayleigh said with dark eyes. The two walked 1,000 meters away. Loya just stopped and turned to look at Rayleigh. A sneer full of murderous intent curled up at the corner of his mouth. Do you know, what I hate the most is fatalism. The prophecy you and Roger and others saw in Raftel. The fate of everyone has been decided. But you call this kind of fate freedom, which is really ridiculous. Kill you. This is the first step to end fatalism and liberate destiny. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.